Three guys who combined to play 15 seasons in the National Football League trenches. Well, two guys. And Mackey, who didn't do shit. This is the O-Line Committee.
All right, we got Jeremiah. We got Phil here. I think Alex is training the offensive lineman of America this morning.
Don't let him fool you. He just wanted to sleep in.
What's his so he said Fridays are he's at the gym at 5:30 in the morning on Fridays.
That's bullshit. No, he's there at 7. I mean, so it's early. He's probably driving right now. They go up to Vadnais Heights there, and I don't even know where the fuck that is. Way up somewhere away from him.
It's not that well from him. Yeah, it's definitely.
Yeah, it's pretty
it's
far
definitely
north.
way across the metro.
Yeah, it's pretty far north metro from him. But yeah, no, they're back in the full swing of things. I think he's got the boys in the gym where all my clients are. So all my clients are up there working with him right now and rock and rolling. And then, dude, next week. So next week I'll go Orlando for the week next week for the Hula Bowl. I'm home for the weekend. Then I go Sunday. I drive to Minneapolis. I'm in Minneapolis the week of the 13th. Then I'll come back. Then I'm hopefully in Dallas for the Shrine Bowl, and then I go down to Senior Bowl for Mobile. So I'm gone
And then New Orleans for Vikings Bills in the Super Bowl.
And then
Is that your next one?
New Orleans down there. Yeah, I don't know.
O-Line Committee Radio Row. We'll see.
Absolutely. Why not? Just see how it goes.
So I've got some is this a hot take questions for you, or statements, I guess.
I like it.
We're trying because you're running all over the place. Booney's running all over the place. We got Purple Daily, and so we're trying to carve out extra episodes during this playoff stretch here, Week 18 playoffs for O-Line.
The film
Committee.
will be back. I promise. I promise the film will be back. We're ready for playoff. We're like the Chiefs. We're getting bored.
And
we're
also,
playoffs.
holiday week.
Yeah.
I'm in Vegas watching fireworks. You're in your living room watching fireworks from London and Sydney.
Yep.
It's been very exciting this week. So here's the first one. I think if you had a pie chart of the percentage of NFL fans that make up the O-Line Committee fan base.
Yes.
Vikings fans and Lions fans.
Mm-hmm.
Eagles fans are well represented. There's a lot of suffering Giants fans, Niners fans following Booney here. But I think Vikings and Lions fans are the biggest percentage of our audience.
Yes, I would agree.
From what we can see on YouTube. So here's is this a hot take for you? It comes from a little bit of a homer perspective, but the Lions will not win another game this season.
Wow.
Or is this a hot take? Whoever loses this game will not win another game this season.
Gosh, I disagree with both those. I do think whoever wins this game wins goes to the Super Bowl. Right? I think you're right. I think whoever wins this game is going to the Super Bowl. Whoever loses this game, I think loses in the divisional. Right? I think they make it out a wild card weekend. Right?
But they'll be too weary after back-to-back battles.
Back-to-back, absolute. This is going to be such a high effort, such a high emotion game. Losing this game is going to hurt. It's going to hurt because you're going to be mountaintop, especially if you're the Lions, and you've been number 1 seed for the entire year. Everyone's talking about how it's your year. It's going to happen. And then you go, and if you get beat at home by the Vikings and fall to the 5 seed, that fan base is going to be like, what the we were supposed to have multiple home playoff games. And I was ready. I was having tickets bought, right? And players are going to be like, oh my gosh, how did we let this slip from our fingers, right? It emotionally will wear on the Lions in a big way. Similar to it will weigh on the Vikings, right? We've climbed. We've stayed in it. And then again, Vikings fans are like, oh my gosh, number 1 seed. We're going to pay Sam Darnold $40 million. Look at all the things we're doing. And if all that comes crashing down because you lose to a depleted Detroit, now the question marks arise again. It's too much riding on this game for me to think that if you don't win it, that you're still going to be able to make a run.
It looks like Tampa is going to be, I'd have to see if Tampa were to win and the Rams were to lose, and then the tiebreakers, I think it would go to conference
tiebreakers.
But I think it looks like if Tampa wins, they would have the conference.
Yes.
So it gets a little complicated, but let's say the seeding holds and Tampa's waiting with open arms for some just road weary team. This is like an NFC championship game happening in week 18.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll tell you this: I think I'd rather go to Tampa than go to LA. In reality, I mean, I think LA is hitting their stride. I think, you talk about a guy that has a ring. I mean, Matt Stafford has a ring. Sean McVay has a ring. Cooper Kupp has a ring. Like, those dudes know what it takes to win a ring in the Super Bowl. I think if I'm Vikings or Lions fans, if I don't win this, I'm hoping that I'm going to Tampa and I'm not going to LA.
Are you offended if it feels like once every like 5 or 6 years, and this is unprecedented. We've never had a 14-win team finish second in a division and then have to take a road. I mean, someone's going to be the 5 seed when they wake up on Monday with 14 wins.
And 3.
That's pretty wild. I personally don't get offended by the once every 6 or 7 year scenario. There was that one game like 15 years ago. It was the Marshawn Lynch famous run against the Saints. And it was I think it was a 7-win Seahawks team, won their crappy division, played at home. Saints were like an 11 or 12 or was it 13? They were like a big time team.
Yeah.
And I don't know, and people freaked out then that you shouldn't have. Well, we have divisions.
Yes.
So I guess if this happens once every 5 or 6 years, I'm not that offended by it. It's just a crazy circumstance. Sorry, you have to go on the road because you didn't win your division. Are you offended by it?
No, we have divisions for a reason. If you did that, then what's the point of having divisions, right? If you're going to say, oh, well, let's just go to best record. It's like, well, then let's just have 2 conferences and figure it out from there. Like, there's no reason to have these divisions. It's why you play these teams twice. It's why it's so important to protect your own division, to get that home playoff game, because home field advantage matters. So, I mean, look at the college football playoff. Every home team won.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that stuff matters. Home field advantage is a very real thing as you get into playoffs and you get into meaningful games. It's why winning your division is so important. It's why when you walk into your OTAs, or you walk into training camp, the number one goal is obviously to win a Super Bowl, but the road to the Super Bowl is, hey, win your division. Right? That's the first step in how do we get to our ultimate goal is we win and we dominate our division, and then we start worrying about the rest of it. But you can't win a Super Bowl. Very rarely do you win a Super Bowl if you don't win your division.
Yeah.
Like Kansas City is a great example. Does Kansas City win it all this year if the road to the Super Bowl goes through the Bills? They have a much harder time, but as soon as they locked up the number 1 seed and the road to the Super Bowl went through Kansas City again, all of us are going, oh, shit. Here we go again, right? Arrowhead's impossible to play in January. Those boys, it's such a big deal.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch it. I would touch the college football playoff.
100%.
We will get to that. But just one last thing on this Vikings-Lions game. It, like I said, it does feel like an NFC Championship game happening in Week 18. It's Sunday Night Football. These guys are going to be all in, because if you go all in and win, you get to exhale for the bye week, etc. Yep. So I'm so excited for this game. My favorite meme that I've seen on Twitter and Instagram, you've got the Lions, who are they're never in this position. They popped up last year and they've got a nice little 2-year run here, but it's been like 60 years of just absolute misery for this franchise. And it's the meme where it's Tiger Woods in his Sunday red, all put together, and then it's John Daly dressed up like a Fruit Loop character or something with his gray beard. And above Tiger Woods, it's the Detroit Lions, 14 wins, high octane offense, best season in franchise history. And then it's over John Daly. It's the Minnesota Vikings rebuilding, 7 wins over their projected win total here with Sam Darnold as their starting quarterback. Man, this must be so annoying for Lions fans to still be looking over your shoulder and the Vikings are just standing there for 4 months with Sam Darnold ripping a camel.
Yeah, I mean, the one that I've seen is the scene from The Office where it's Dwight, where he's standing there, and it's like the Detroit Lions, and then it's when Angela pops up behind him, and it's like the Vikings, like, fuck, you're still there? Right? Like, because I do think, at what point were the Lions like, oh, we have this kind of locked up, right? Like, we've got probably once they beat the Vikings, they're like, okay, we've got that 2-game comfortable lead.
They'll drop another game or two.
They'll drop another one. We can kind of go here. And then they lose to the Bills, and then the Vikings get hot, and they're just like, we can't catch a break. Like, as a franchise, we can't catch a freaking break.
It would be wild if and there's a very, very good chance the Vikings score 40 points against that depleted defense. I mean, the Niners ran
did.
roughshod, and they wind up losing a close game. And by the way, like, it was a close game the first time around. People kind of forget about the first Lions-Vikings game.
Oh, yeah,
the Vikings were up by double digits early, and then they had if Darnold throws an accurate 3rd and 8 or whatever it was pass with like 2 minutes to go in the game is over, and the Lions don't get it back. So,
I mean, watching that Lions offense, I mean, they understand that it is their show now, and they know that it's going to be a race to 50, and that offense can do it. I mean, you're starting Jameson Williams becomes such a weapon. He's so freaking fast, right? And then you talk about Amon-Ra in the slot. I think, as much as I hate it, losing David Montgomery, I think more Jahmyr Gibbs is probably better than less Jahmyr Gibbs, because he is unbelievably talented. And then if Goff can keep wheeling and dealing and finding the right guys, and if there is anything that is a Vikings Achilles heel, it's a veteran quarterback that can pick apart the blitz, right? I mean, it's been proven. Stafford's done it. We saw Goff do it earlier this year, right? Veteran quarterbacks that can identify early, see where blitzes are coming from, and understand where to go with the football to beat the blitz and get the ball out of their hands. That is kind of what gives Brian Flores' defenses a little bit of fit. So I don't think it's going to be like, oh, this defense just comes out and smothers this offense like they did to the Packers for 3 quarters. I do think this is going to be a race to 40, a race to 45 is who's going to win this football game.
You just hit on another reason why, for the Vikings in particular, getting the 1 seed in the bye, because if they have to play on the road, the only other teams in the bracket that kind of fit that description of veteran quarterback that can sit back there and pick you apart, Baker Mayfield and the Bucks with those weapons, and Matthew Stafford, who already did it on that Thursday night game. Like, you'd be going against those teams. So
yeah, I mean, that's really the one thing that glaringly is like worrisome for me. Like, because we've talked about like rookie quarterbacks, young quarterbacks, right? Jaden Daniels, yes, he's electric. Do I think Brian Flores puts his brain in a blender? Probably, right? But those guys like Stafford and Baker they've seen too much. Right, they're the old war vet that's just seen it all, and just it all comes running back and flashing back to them when it comes across the middle there.
Fight or flight mode. They're just okay. Let's actually go to college football playoff here.
We have to.
I've got 2 potential hot takes. I'll start with the self-serving one. You know that the Golden Gophers are my number 1 college football team, my alma mater.
Duke Mayobo today.
Really excited. Yeah. Be a big one. I want to see PJ Fleck take a bath in mayonnaise. Just undefeated in
rub it into your pores, PJ.
Put
the lotion on the skin, or else it gets the hose again.
But my second team, my grandpa played for Newt Rockne at Notre Dame back 95 years ago.
Golden Domer.
So, is this a hot take? The Fighting Irish are going to win their first national championship since 1988.
I don't think you get past Ohio State, my friend. That Ohio State team is what we all thought they were going to be all year long.
If you just don't play Michigan, it feels like...
I think losing to Michigan might have been the best thing that ever happened to them. Right? You go out there and you get beat by Michigan on your own home turf. Everyone's screaming for Ryan Day's head on a platter. Right? Fire him. He can't win the big one.
He heard that the whole time too, by the way.
Right? Yeah. He's hearing that. The team hears that. Jack Sawyer hears that. Jeremiah Smith hears that. And you're like, okay. Batten down the hatches. Rally the troops. And away we go. They go dismantle Tennessee at home. Right? Those boys wanted nothing to do with that cold weather, and they stuck it to them. And then you take the number 1 team and make them look like they're children.
Yeah.
I mean, like they're children.
That was crazy.
On a team that has been dominant all year long, got weapons out the ass, and they couldn't do anything. And if that Ohio State team plays like that and Will Howard plays like that, I don't know if there's anyone left that can beat them because they have so much talent. I mean, I've called Ohio State for years just an NFL farm team. Right, every level they have an NFL player, right? Maybe not quarterback. I don't know. Will Howard's up in the air, right? But you go running back, Travion Henderson. Yeah, he'll play on Sundays, right? Okay, offensive line, Donovan Jackson. Yeah, he's an All-American. Ben McLaughlin. Yeah, he was an All-American, right? Oh, D lineman. Oh, there's Jack Sawyer, right? Linebacker, DB, wide receiver. It's just NFL talent everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't think if Notre Dame plays like that, they're going to give a run for their money. But shoot, dude, Penn State's not looking awful either.
It's kind of worked out. So you have the 5 through 8 seeds have advanced to the semifinals.
Dude, I think the bye week in college is a little too long.
So we had, the conference championship games were like, I'm trying to do them, pull up the calendar here. So, because the first round were December 21st was the first round of the CFP.
Yeah, the championship games are the first weekend in December.
And so that would have been December 7th.
Yeah, the 7th or 8th.
And then it was 2 weeks until the first round.
Yep.
Right? Because it was the 20th and 21st.
Yep.
If I'm looking at this right. Yeah. Because it was Friday, Saturday. And you wind up sitting around. So if you're like Ohio State gets a home game, kind of a warm-up game against a Tennessee while Oregon sits there. And the same was true. Arizona State started really sloggy and slow in that game. And then that game was wild, by the way.
No, dude, the SEC
Scatterboo barfing his guts out on the sideline.
A little too much beer this week down there, and a little too much beer down there in Arizona, my friend, huh?
I think he might have caught whatever. I feel like half the country has some sort of weird flu bug, and he, I don't know, man. He was like subbing himself out after 1 play, 2 plays.
Yeah.
Coaches patting him on the back, like, dude, get some water. Get your ass. I'm calling a pass play for you next. So if you could just get some water quick.
Yeah, get your fat ass in there.
Notre Dame, Penn State, and then Texas, Ohio State. Ohio State feels clearly like the best team remaining of these 4. But if there's here, you tell me if this is a hot take too. If there's I'd make 2 major tweaks to this thing. Number 1, I would flip it so that instead of a guaranteed bye and a top 4 seed for like winning your conference, I would just say, hey, Arizona State, like Boise State, you guys are in. You're guaranteed to be in, but not as the 3 seed, the 4 seed. Because but the second thing I would do, I would actually make the quarterfinal games home site games.
Yes.
And I know we'd have to like get rid of the Rose Bowl, or like we'd have to figure out what to do with.
Put other teams in it.
So you just have more teams in bowl games, I guess.
I'm with you. I think the quarterfinal games 100% should be home games, right? I mean, Boise State should have been playing on the blue turf, and I thought they were, and I was fucking pissed when they weren't.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's almost a disadvantage in some form and capacity to not get the bye, because you're right. Those teams get a bit of a tune-up game, right? And they build some momentum. I mean, Ohio State didn't play in a conference championship game, right? They were not in the Big Ten championship, right? So they got a tune-up game, because if not, they would have been playing since before Thanksgiving, right? Tune-up game against Tennessee, confidence builder at home, rally the base, rally the crowd. And then you go to Oregon, who is a neutral site, right? I've been sitting around, didn't know who your opponent was until 2 weeks ago, right? Trying to kind of you're trying to motivate through a long time there, and then to come out, and usually bowl games start a little slow because guys haven't been playing. But when you have played 2 weeks ago and the other team hasn't, there's definitely a disadvantage when it comes to timing, when it comes to knocking rust off and that stuff. And if you are trying to knock rust off against an Ohio State team that's like, oh yeah, we're just going to score 30 in the first half.
Yeah.
You're toast.
All of these teams. So yeah, just literally all of the teams that got a bye week and sat around with their 1 through 4 seed got either boat raced entirely or got off to a really slow start, like Arizona State, had to come back, claw their way out. Georgia, super slow start, had to kind of now Georgia had some injuries too, but
well, yeah, I knew it. Once their quarterback was hurt, everyone's like, "Oh, this young kid will be fine." I was like, "Oh no, you don't understand. When the young kid came in last time, full blackout, right?
Yeah,
I don't know what day it is. I'm just out here slinging the pigskin, right? He got knocked unconscious at one point, and like popped back up. That dude had to put his head on the pillow and be like, I am Georgia's starting quarterback on the college football playoff, and I'm gonna just piss my pants
against one of the best pressure defenses in the country.
Yeah, and that's what happened. I mean, the kid was not ready for that moment, and it's hard to put the kid out there and think like, well, Tua did it, right? Like, yeah, well, not everyone's Tua Tagovailoa, man. Like, it's a rare breed. Also, can we talk about how the SEC is getting dog stomped by the Big Ten? and ESPN is like brain is breaking. They don't know how to like, right? You've got Shane Beamer doing the cat meme at Brett Bielema, like, oh, you gotta make a lot of me, right? Like losing his mind over there. You've got just, I mean, it's been fantastic.
Well, not even in the playoff. Like, South
Alabama
Carolina,
loses to
Alabama gets smoked by Michigan.
who couldn't score all year long, right, against anyone, and then this vaunted SEC defense just goes out there and lets Michigan score. I mean, Jaden Milroe declared for the NFL draft, and I was like, "Oh, gross."
So, is part of this the fact that you're not going to be able to stash? So, if you're recruiting all these 4 and 5 star guys 5 years ago, and starters go down. I mean, think about Alabama back. They literally replaced Jalen Hurts in a college. It was a national championship game with Tua, right? They just had like 2 NFL first, second round NFL dudes. Sorry, Tua, we just don't have room for you because we have this other dude who's going to go and be a Super Bowl contending quarterback. That now that NIL is all out in the open. Not that players weren't maybe getting money before NIL, but like now that it's all very much wild, wild west, it's harder to stash depth of 4 and 5 star talent. And like Georgia just doesn't look, when Georgia gets a couple injured players now, they just don't, they're not as dominant. Yeah. Because if you're a backup, you're going to go take $750,000 to go play for some other school, right?
Absolutely. Right. I mean, Penn State's backup quarterback, he took $1.5 million to go to Missouri.
Yeah.
$1.5 million, right? I know of a right tackle in the Big Ten that decided to come back to school for $1 million. $1 million.
That's wild.
Right? So, yeah.
Is this altering draft? Like if you're, well, I mean, Scadaboo, for example, for Arizona State. And is he a senior?
He's out of eligibility.
But like, let's say he had a year left of eligibility.
Go back to school, buddy.
Go make $2 million.
Go make 1.5.
Or be a 5th round pick.
Yeah. Go make 1.5. Like 100%. Like there are certain guys, like I think if you have a mid-round grade or lower, go back to school.
Yeah.
Make that guaranteed money. Right?
By the way, Scadaboo. Okay, I know that fullbacks are dying in the NFL right now, but dude, I could see, and he's a running back in college football.
He's the best running back in college football.
It's funny, they showed that clip or they played that quote, and then 2 plays later, he breaks a tackle and But he gets tracked down from behind. And
he's gonna run like a 4.7.
That's like he feels like a Shanahan system. If you run like 21, 22 personnel, Dolphins, 49ers, he's like the use check.
Yes,
to me.
Yeah, I mean he's like a Hunter Lipke for the Dallas Cowboys, right? He's definitely going to be that F. But think Peyton Hillis, right? Yeah. Peyton Hillis from back in the day. Right? People try. I don't think he's as fast as Toby Gerhart. Right? Some people try to compare him to Toby Gerhart, and I was like, oh, easy there. Like this dude, Toby Gerhart used to be able to pull away from people even though he wore a knee brace. Right? But this dude, Scadaboo, breaks a run and like, oh, there he goes, and then all the DBs just go. It just like within 3 steps chased him down. I was like, oh yeah, you ain't getting drafted super high there, Mr.
But he can
4-7.
Catch passes, man. Like he can do things. I think he's an NFL player,
NFL player for sure. But he's not. I mean, when you say you're the best running back in college football, and you look around at some of the athletic freaks, it's like you might be a very productive back in college football, but.
Yeah,
pump the brakes there, mister.
And then they cut to like Georgia's 3rd string running back, who's probably running a 4.5. Okay, so speaking of running backs here, is this a hot take? I think I know what your answer is going to be, but Saquon Barkley will regret sitting Week 18 for the rest of his life.
No, he won't. He
100 yards away from Eric Dickerson's record.
He knows it's not worth it, and I appreciate a player that is selfless like that because, I was thinking about this a little bit more after our pod. I think if Jalen Hurts hadn't gotten hurt, and they'd probably do it. Like, I think if Jalen 3 weeks ago didn't get the concussion, they missed out on him, right? Had to squeak a game out late without him. Then obviously Kenny Pickett gets hurt this week, and you have to squeak out a game with Tanner McGee. I think he's kind of looking around going, man, is it worth a record for me to miss this playoff run. You have to remember, he's only been to the playoffs once. Right? He's only been to the playoffs one time. Right? This isn't a guy that is perennial going to the playoffs. He's never really had a chance to make a run. Right? Even when they got in with the Giants, no one was talking about how the Giants were going to win the Super Bowl that year. He feels like he has his chance to put a ring on his finger this year. He's not going to blow that with a chance to blow a record, and I can respect that.
So let's say the Packers march in, because it's going to be Packers Eagles. I believe I think that's so locked in. Good. Unless, well, I guess it's not locked in because the Commanders and Packers both have 11-5 records. But if they remain tied, the Commanders have a 2-game lead in the conference record standing. So it's Packers roll in, Packers beat the Eagles, which is very possible. Packers did this last year in Dallas, right? My pushback is that this type of chance only comes around, especially in today's NFL, where you don't get the bell cow. Guys don't get 300 carries. Was there room for both? I think, like what you're saying and what other people are saying is that it's either or. You either go for the record and then you're for sure going to get hurt and not be able to play. Is there not room for both? I mean, the Lions carved out room for both when they played starters on a Monday night short rest before a Week 18 showdown. Totally meaningless. They could have sat starters. Like, where's that line, I guess? Where are you sitting him completely and you're carving out a bye week? So what's the difference between what the Eagles are going to do, take a bye week? The Lions chose not to in Week 17, and it was lauded by the Bill Belichick's of the world and some of the other coaches.
See, but I feel like it's different for the Detroit piece because they knew they had to build confidence to win this week, right? They needed a confidence booster. Hey, we still want, because I'm telling you, regardless if you sit starters or not, if you lose a football game in the NFL, it fucks with your week. Like your whole week is like, oh my gosh, we lost that game, and now we have this. Like versus you win a game, film is better, the food tastes better, your girlfriend looks better. Like all that stuff it really does matter. Talking about a game before the playoffs when your playoff seeding is locked, totally different and a word meaningless, right? I mean, that game is meaningless. There is nothing for that game for the Eagles that means anything besides the fact that it's against the Giants with a divisional opponent and Saquon's 100 yards away. It's meaningless. It really does. And so everyone on that team, I think that if Saquon really wanted to go for this, he could. He could go to Sirianni and say, hey, let's go for it in the first half. Let's give it a run. I just think he fully understands that, yes, the records aren't going to be there to go for every single year either, but he knows that playoffs aren't guaranteed every single year either, right? And you would hope that with the Eagles, you're always going to be in contention, but you're looking at the Commanders coming up strong in that division, right? You always know Dallas could rattle off a 12-win season every single year, right? There's tons of factors that play into this, and if your ultimate goal is winning a football Super Bowl championship, that has to be the ultimate goal, not, and I'm going to try and go for this record and possibly hurt my team.
I wonder how many more chances we're going to get with this thing. Because Saquon and Derrick Henry feel like the attachment to the bell cow era, right?
Yeah.
And the bell cow era has been fading for at least 10 years. I mean, Adrian Peterson, when he retired, actually, technically, he's never retired. The league has
still ready.
Yeah, 40 years old.
Stay ready.
Is there a guy now, after you get past Saquon and Derrick Henry, that would even get the 300-plus carries necessary going forward? I don't know, man.
The only one in the NFL right now I could think of would be Bijan. I think you could create a system for Bijan Robinson like that. He's talented enough, right? But I mean, they're kind of also by committee with Tyler Algier, and they had Cordell Patterson a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But I mean, you look across the league, I don't know if they're built like that anymore.
Like Jahmyr Gibbs is talented enough. But is he going to get – I mean, he's been in a timeshare now for a couple years. At some point, once David Montgomery's gone, maybe he gets 80% of the carries. But to hold up –
But it also takes a different breed of body style, right? Like Jahmyr Gibbs is not a very big dude.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's a punishing thing to be a bell cow back. But I think back to the guys that are on that list, right? Terrell Davis. I remember watching that dude grow up. Like, dude was just a brick shit house. But I think of like other guys like Clinton Portis, right? Another one that was just a monster that just had all kinds of, even when Zeke back in the day, when he was the bell cow guy for Dallas, right? Big dudes, right? 225, right? Somewhere in that range of 220 plus that can take the battle, take the brunt, take the linebackers and the safeties over and over and over again. It's a different breed of college game now than it was back then too. And so they're just not quite built the same. So I don't think he'll regret it as long as they win a playoff game.
Yeah.
It has to, if they lose in the first round, then yeah, I think everyone's going to go, oh, well, sorry.
Yeah.
Right.
But you have to make the decision.
You have to make the decision.
Knowing that you might lose in the first round.
You have to make the decision. I think you win one playoff game, then it was worth it.
I'll stand by what I said. I think it was our Monday episode. I'd love to see it like a preseason game. Hey, we're going to run out there starters. We don't want you to get too rusty. So let's do a series and see what happens. If Saquon breaks a 35-yard run on the second play of the game, maybe we see what happens on a second series. But then, of course, to your point, a linebacker could barrel into your knee and render it all useless. So I got some dumb football questions for you, starting with this one came from a few different people, and you requested that we throw a Jets thing in here too. Mm-hmm. So I'll frame it on behalf of the audience that has asked. Are the Jets nailing this process right now? So they've talked to Ron Rivera, recycled Ron Rivera for their head coaching job, and they just interviewed ESPN's Louis Riddick, who I think was calling one of the college football playoff games this week. Sharp football analyst, but he's been at ESPN for like 12 years now. I'm not sure what else they have lined up for interviews here, but are the Jets nailing this process here? Are they finally on the right track?
No, not at all. Like, come on, guys. Like, that's your out the rip, right? Those are your headline. Those are your openers, right? Your opener, your hook to your fan base is the ESPN analyst. And listen, I played for Riverboat Ron. Love the guy to death. But they're not hiring old coaches anymore. They're not.
If they do, they should just bring Rex Ryan back.
Yeah, if you're gonna do it,
just
like
bring Rex. Loves the Jets.
Yes.
You know, he did pretty well.
I mean, Jeff Saturday's available somewhere to Boone's demise, right? I mean, I just
hire Louis Riddick and Jeff Saturday, and just leave Mike Greenberg with an empty studio.
I mean, my guess is Louis Riddick was probably on the college football NCAA game, and Woody Johnson's like steps or whatever was listening to him like, "Hey, Dad, this guy kind of knows what he's talking about."
How about Ryan Clark as a special teams coordinator? We just bring the whole ESPN panel. It'd be great.
I mean, that place, wow. New York football right now. What are we doing? Like, what are we doing?
At least the Giants give you, to me anyways, like, okay, the Giants under the family ownership, they've produced champions before, and you can kind of still see they've strayed from what that looks like.
Yeah, the Super Bowls are still in the case somewhere as you walk by, right? Like, oh, there's some Lombardis over there.
But at least, okay, like we've strayed away from, we're on this raft and we've strayed away from the island, but we know that we've built championships before. I don't know what you hang on to if you're a Jets fan. There are zero reference points for success. Dude, they haven't made the playoffs since 2010. The playoffs. Playoffs. Yeah. I mean, it's but if you're the Jets, it's not just about who they may or may not be identifying. It's who's going to sign up for that job.
Correct.
Like how deep is the pool of candidates for, like, if you're Ben Johnson and you were already picky, you turned down the Commander's job, which actually now, like, with all the different changes, not a bad job. He's not taking the Jets. Like, who's taking the Jets job in either one of those cases?
Ron Rivera.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Right. I mean, but also it's not just who wants to take that job from a coaching standpoint. What's your pitch in free agency? Right. Hey, want to come play with Aaron Rodgers one more year? Like,
yeah.
Is Devontae still there? No. Right. Like, there's so much you're going to have to overpay in free agency.
Shouldn't they consider trading Devontae Adams too, by the way? Like, if you're the Jets, you can still get maybe a second-round pick for Devontae Adams.
Yes. Right? But that goes back to who's running the team. Is it Woody or is it Aaron? Because Aaron's going to say no. Right? No. Don't trade my best friend. He's got a Taco Bell in his house. Why would you want to get rid of him? Right? I don't know who's driving the ship over there. And I don't know. is it? I mean, I don't know if Aaron has that much power, but he's sure making a lot of money. But I just until they can get a clear leader at either the GM or the head coach position, they are so toast. Like it's so hard to win in this league if you don't have a great leader at the helm.
Well, and this actually a good segue into from the audience here. Steven's guitar covers.
Love this
who's
guy.
given us a few of these over the weeks. And you can hit us up to Dumb Football Questions in the YouTube comment section. We try to stash as many as we can here. But he says, I'd love to see you guys do a ranking for best ownership in football. How far would, for instance, the Vikings with the Wilfs be up there? You guys have both played for the Vikings. And before you answer who you think are some of the best ownership situations, that's why the Jets are screwed, because they literally have a completely off the rails. Like Woody Johnson gets mad week 5 because his friends in London are watching his team lose a game and fall to 1-4, and it's like he makes decisions based on how he feels in the moment. Fire this guy, fire that guy.
Emotional.
You need to be able to take your emotions and put them on the shelf and analyze from 30,000 feet. And there's a few owners that just don't have that ability.
No, well, that's the thing. These owners, a lot of them, a lot of the shitty ones are not football guys. They don't come from football background. They don't eat, leave, and breathe it. Some of these guys are just billionaires with a hobby, right? I mean,
which is fine, but just
yes,
hire the right people.
Right?
And stay
I
out
mean,
of the way.
there was an old quote. I remember. I can't remember. It was a long time ago, where like the Bengals owner that got caught on a hot recorder saying like 8-8's the perfect record because it's enough to keep the fans engaged, but you don't have to pay the players, right? Like it's something like that. Like that's the kind of mentality that some of these guys have. Other guys are like, hey, I'm in it to win a Super Bowl championship and bring a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like that's my legacy, right? But I mean, you have to. Gosh, I'm looking through the list of the owners here. I mean, it's hard for me not to put a guy like Robert Kraft up at the high end of the owners. Right. I mean, he's done it for so long, built a dynasty, able to have all of that. He's given the team everything they need. Right. So it's hard for me not to put him in like a top 1, 2, or 3 spot.
I'll bet if you pulled up like the NFLPA voting from last year and you basically let the players answer for you, facilities, I bet you could do it based on, because every team operates within a pretty strict range of salary cap floor and ceiling. Even the cheapest teams like the Bengals have to hit the salary cap floor, right? Now, there's ways that they can circumvent like guaranteed money and different things like that. But it's the spending outside the cap structure that tells you who cares and who doesn't. And if you've got a team like the Bengals or the Cardinals and they just have, and the players do the voting, crappy facilities, crappy food, bad relationships with players' families and whatever, versus some of the other teams that are spare no expense. We'll give you that third meal every day. We'll give you travel, family, all these things. It's the expenditures outside the salary cap to me that show who cares and who doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it shows the ones that are willing to put their money where their mouth is, right? Do I own this thing or do I invest in this thing, right? That's the difference, because I mean, it's like having a car, right? I can own a car, but if I want to make a supercar, I'm going to put all the aftermarket parts on it. Right? It's important to the players to feel cared for from their owner. Right? Hey, I want to know that you're in this thing with me, that you actually give a shit about what's going on here, or are you just here and you're just going to sign my checks because you want to go to your billionaire parties and say, I own a Super Bowl team or I own a football team, right? It is what it is. But yeah, I mean, I've seen it on both ends, right? I mean, when I first got to San Diego, I think the Spanos family is a very good owners. I think they're great, but our facilities were awful. Like they weren't good, but I didn't know any better, right? I didn't know any better as a college kid coming in. I'll tell you this, most college facilities are better than every NFL facility. Like that if you come from a Power 5 program, you're downgrading facilities when you show up to an NFL program for probably, I'd say like 60% of the facilities. That's getting better.
That's crazy.
It's getting better, right? But then I go to Winter Park, and with the Wilfs,
like the old
old facility for the Vikings, which you were in,
oh yeah,
dump. Right? I mean, dump. Like it was a bunker. Like whoever thought like, hey, let's build this into the hill with no windows so they never know what time it is outside. Right? Like that's what it felt like. There was days I'd show up to work and it would be dark and we'd practice inside because it'd be -5 outside, and I'd leave work and it'd be dark, and I'd realize to myself, I never saw the sun today.
Because the field house had no windows.
The
too,
field
right?
house had no windows. Like I would like there was days where I was like, I never saw the sun today. Not one time did I see natural light today. Right. And then you look at their new facilities now, and obviously you see it goes there, but I don't know how you fix this. The Bengals are extremely cheap. The Browns are extremely cheap. Like I know the Chiefs kind of were in some hot water with some of their stuff, but then they immediately rectified the situation. They're like, new locker rooms for all, right? Yeah. And then I know
after
the Bills,
that 5th championship, we might get you a new cafeteria. We'll see.
I mean, the Bills redid a whole new facility. They're building a whole brand new stadium, right? So it's definitely one of those things where you look at and go, okay, you can tell who loves you by putting your money where your mouth is. I mean, unless you're Green Bay and you just don't have any owners and everything's fine.
Like if Green Bay needs some facilities upgrades, do they have to send a memo out to 300,000 people?
Special assessment. Hey, we need $5,000 from all of you.
Let's send an email to Bob in Appleton and get his thoughts on. So Purdy Good 79 chimes in here with a dumb football question. It is incentive week. A lot of guys trying to hit their incentives here, final week of the season. Are players keeping track of their incentives week to week in their contracts? And have y'all seen or heard of coaches purposely trying to keep guys from hitting their incentives? Well, that might come down to the good versus bad franchises too, right? The cheap versus not cheap.
Yeah, no, everyone is aware. Everyone is fully aware. And I think back to 2016, where in the last game of the year, we're playing the Bears. We're playing the Bears. I think it's 2016. It's our last game of the year. And Kyle Rudolph was like 8 or 9 catches away from hitting his like $1 million bonus.
Yeah.
Right. And all of us knew it going into week 18 or 17 at that point. All of us knew it. And we were all in the huddle, and I don't know if the coaches knew it. I don't really remember if the coaches were kind of cued in on it, but I can just remember all of us like, Sam, you're going to throw Kyle the football, right? Like, and it was just like naked Kyle. And we'd all come back to the huddle like, hey, 7 more. Right. And then it was like 6 more, 5 more. And I can remember he got it on like a 2-yard dump pass. Right. He finished and got it. And all of us are running over to him like he won the Super Bowl. Right. Like we're in the huddle, like, yeah, it's $1 million. Right. Like just hammering on him. And everyone's like, dude, it's 2nd and 7. Get back in the huddle, you morons. Right. Like, yeah, definitely. I mean, I can remember a guy, Trent Murphy, I played with. He needed 1 more sack to get a big time bonus in Buffalo for like 7 weeks and never got it.
Oh,
right. Like it just was so close every time. And I'll remember, one time he subbed out as like, it was like a 6, 7, 8 play drive. He subs out to get a breather on like 1st and 2nd down. And the guy that goes in for him, they end up doing like a full slide away bootleg protection, and his backup just like runs up and sacks the guy that like just rolled out to him. And I remember sitting next to Trent, and he just like throws his water bottle down. Like, gosh, dude, like he never ended up getting it. Right? He was like 7 games, needed 1 more sack and never ended up getting it. But yeah, guys are always aware of that.
Do offensive linemen are there incentives for a left guard?
No. It'd all be negative
pancake
incentives.
Blocks.
It'd all be negative incentives, right? Like, hey, don't give up 4 sacks, right? Like, there's no positive incentive for us besides maybe start time or play time or anything like that. But yeah,
could be like how many games you.
Yeah, how many games did you start in a row or whatever it might be. But yeah, there's no quantifiable positive incentive for an offensive lineman.
In fact, I feel like for 90% of the teams playing this weekend, the only thing you're playing for are incentives, or put film out if you're a fringe roster guy for next year, right? Because most of these games are between teams that are out of it. Hungry Pain 1111. I think this will be our last one here. Says, besides the coaches and the players, who else travels with the team for road games? Like what other personnel travels besides the roster, the coaches, trainers.
Shit. Yeah, so you've got all your equipment staff, right? So most of your equipment staff is on the plane. You've got your media staff, right? All the media guys are on the plane. You have, gosh, I'm trying to think who else is all on the plane.
Like the in-house media.
Yeah,
right?
the in-house
like
media, right? Like the
the
Paul Allens.
the state-run
Yeah,
media.
the Paul Allens, your play-by-play guy, your sideline
PR communications.
Yeah, your PR people, like all those people are there. There's people, honestly, there's people on the plane I've never seen before, right? You're like, I don't know who this person is.
Is this like a Make-A-Wish? What's
yeah,
happening?
like, I don't know. Like, I remember like Kevin Warren was the VP of Minnesota. Like, he used to sit in front of me. And like I didn't really know who he was for the first like year I was there, and then they're like,
and then he ran the Big Ten like,
oh,
2 years later,
right?
And now he's running the Bears into the ground. It's great.
Yeah, yeah. It's literally there's people on the plane where you have no idea who they are, no clue whatsoever, right? But a lot of times they keep the animals separate from everyone else, right? They're like, players, get your butts in the back, like everyone else will stay over here, like no one wants to see the animals. But it does take a village. I mean, it takes a village to put on an NFL program. It's nuts.
How many, like, these front offices, you've got, now you have, obviously, your director of pro personnel, then there's, like, the college scouting groups over here, and now you've got, like, analytics departments, and you got all these kind of bloated front offices. How much interaction do players have with any of the people in the front office? Like, general manager a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, once you get drafted, I mean, or you get to the team, the front office is kind of a no-no. Like
it's the wizard behind the curtain.
Like you don't really deal with them anymore, right? Like they got you here, they signed you up and like buttoned you up, and then they handed you down to the coaches, and they're like, your problem now. Right. I mean, the only time you really you see the GM because he's kind of walking around, right? He's El Jefe, right? Kind of the big boss walking around. But I remember in training camp, they try and stick some of the scouts into this meeting rooms to be like, oh, well, they're just trying to see like what to look for or whatever. And you kind of like sit at them looking in the back like,
are you judging me right now?
What the fuck are you doing in here? Right. Like one time, one of the scouts fell asleep and Tony Sperano lost it. Right. Like we're all sitting there in training camp. It's middle of like late night meetings. Right. We're all exhausted and we just hear like, and we turn around and it's because I was like, we were about to fight, right? Because anytime one of the players falls asleep, you just start throwing shit at him. Right? And we turn around, it was one of the scouts. Like one of the scouts was like dozing in the back, and Sperano was like, "Get out of here!" Like, and all of us were like, "Boo!" Just started screaming at him. Oh, it was bad.
Yeah, I mean, it probably helps to do your job if you're a front office person, a scout, get the human, but at the same time, you have to create separation because you're making decisions on whether old Jeremiah is going to be employed by the Vikings in 3 months or 6 months. So it's kind of a weird dynamic.
Yeah, front office people don't really know you as a person. They just know you as a tape, like who you are on tape. Yeah. Right. And I think they kind of do that on purpose, right? Because they don't want you feeling attached to the animal. Right, like they want you to be able to like be emotionally unattached from the animal
when you
and be
slit
like
the animal's throat.
Right, when you're like, yeah, I don't think he's
house.
good enough. Like I just don't think he's good enough anymore. They don't want to be like, oh, but he's such a good guy. Right, like no. You're objective here. You don't make any decision with emotion. You just watch that tape and tell me if he's good enough to play or not.
This is what's making it tough with old Sam Darnold, man. We're putting him up on our shoulders and showering him with water bottles, and
the front office people are got to be in the back going, you take emotion out of it, all of it. This is a business decision.
Yeah. So those are your dumb football questions here. Man, this is going to be such a fun month.
I can't wait.
Week 18, NFC Championship game, basically vibes anyways, and then the playoffs starting. And yeah, we're going to bring back, so just behind the curtain here, we're trying to figure out our schedules with all of us having a bunch of things going on with our A jobs here too, but the film breakdowns, we're going to try and do as many as we can into playoff season here, like after Super Wildcard Weekend, break down as many of those games as we can. So the film breakdowns will be back, and then the weekly recap episodes and dumb football questions. So Yeah, we're pumped for, and then college too. I know Booney hates college football talk on the show, but you and I love it. So
yeah, so he can
we're gonna have
down.
to carve
he
out
can
some
sit
time.
down and he can sit down and be quiet about it because I mean we're into the Final Four here now. It's going to be great football.
He can turn up his EDM music and
Yeah.
his other headphones while we
put his other AirPod in.
So, all right, if you haven't already, click that subscribe button and the like button here on the O-Line Committee YouTube channel. Appreciate you guys getting us to 30,000 subs before the end of 2024. And we'll catch you after week 18. He's Jeremiah. I'm Phil. This is the O-Line Committee.